This is your looking a semi-regular weekly, non-weekly podcast where we look at and discuss topics in film and movies through the odd movie review and talk about history and stuff like that. I'm Kieran. I am the one that is actually on camera and probably on a microphone as well. Who knows?
Yeah, let's hope so. I'm Sam. I'm the one who's glad I didn't have to see that intro. And I'll say this from the off. Not a sports fan, but I'm a sports movie fan. So yeah, let's do this.
And somewhere in the world is Jacob. He's the one who is disappearing off for a minute and will be back momentarily.
Yeah, at some point, he's just doing something. We've had a clash, but he will be here.
Yeah, we've had a clash. He's had a crash. And only him will get that. Yeah, so we are doing sports movies. Woo! I guess. I don't know. Realistically, at this point, sports movies should just be called underdog movies because that's all they are. It's the same plot every time. And very quickly, I think that would be my answer. We got a question from Holly very quickly, and she friend of the show, obviously. We messaged in to say, I don't really care about sports, but I've loved almost every sports movie I've watched. Big shout out to Rocky, which I avoided for years and is now one of my favorites. Do you think sports movies all have a quality that makes us love them? And I personally think it's because almost every single sports movie is an underdog movie, because I don't really think you could do a decent one that wasn't in some way.
Yeah, it would be no fun if like they were the best to start with and they carried on just being the best throughout. I mean, it's tapping into those like base pleasures, isn't it? It's like, we like to see them kind of go through adversity, but claw their way up and eventually come out on top. I mean, the classic one, Rocky. I mean, famously, he doesn't actually win in that film in the first one, but he wins our hearts, and that's all that matters.
And thinking about it, although it's not. Think of it as sports typically, I'm thinking years ago, because I've only ever seen it once, the first Cars film. He doesn't actually cross the line first, does he? He gives up the win to help the other car over. It's not about the winning, it's about the lessons we learned along the way. But I also think was it Nish Kumar, the British comedian, that says, you can't really have like a left-wing action film. Because there'd be nothing going on. It would just be a load of superheroes debating about UN treaties, which hilariously enough then becomes Civil War, Captain America. But it's like some films have to follow certain things, and I think realistically for like a sports film there has to be at least some element of the underdog. I'm thinking it was a bit.
I mean, I've got this quote from Time Out, talking about the appeal of like sports movies, and they say, sports movies are a framework to tell great stories of winners, losers, triumph and tragedy, conquering behemoths and inspiring underdogs. No wonder then that filmmakers frequently draw upon sports for inspiration. Yes, sports movies can be filled with cliches, but there are also many that manage to either subvert them or deliver them with so much emotion. It's like experiencing them for the first time. So it really does kind of tap into that kind of just kind of how just being human and having a beating heart and everything. It's like they can almost get like a shortcut, to those base emotions, those thrills.
I was going to say, if you want to somehow tug at the heartstrings very, very quickly, you can do worse than a sports movie. It's kind of just, if in doubt, we'll do that, because there's going to be some trials and tribulations, there's going to be some fun, there's going to be some lows, and it just fits. And I think it's the sports movie that we have in kind of Western society. There obviously will be stories that are going the other way. I mean, if they're ever going to do like a biopic about is it Lance Armstrong, the cyclist, and his drug use, that'll go downhill very quickly right at the end, and it would be a different kind of thing. It would be a tragedy. And sports movies and tragedies, you could do it, but it's never going to be.
Yeah, there aren't many. There are a few though, aren't there? Like I Tonya, from a few years back, Margot Robbie, Tony Harding again, she's reviled, by the kind of professional skating community, for what happened with her, and that again, that film does kind of thread you up to like her highest point, but then takes it right down again and really goes into
Yeah,
like kind of a really kind of crappy kind of end to her career, basically, and kind
yeah,
of
and
public perception and everything like
yeah,
that.
and that kind of I think leads into a question from Liam, which is he first asks which sport has the most untapped potential for film, and then goes, "Are we missing Scorsese's take on snooker? Should Tarantino's final film be on the insane
Yeah,
politics and nail-biting tension
yeah,
goals?" And I think something like
yeah.
Scorsese would bring them up and then drag them right down to the bottom
Yeah,
again,
yeah. I
or
did point.
Goodfellas or something like that.
Yeah, I did point out to him that we have already kind of had Scorsese's take on Pool, with Color of Money, but
And obviously he did do Raging Bull.
yes, yeah,
So
yeah,
he kind of has
yeah,
done that, and boxing is normally a good one.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing Iron Claw, which is wrestling, but kind of two people in a ring is a really
yeah,
nice one because it's really visual. It's a straight up fight, so it's
yeah,
really obvious, and you don't really need
yeah,
much in the way of rules.
yeah, and you can do a lot of character stuff, obviously, and
Yeah,
really make the most of the actors, expression on their face and everything like that. I mean, one of the things that I mean, James asks, just go off on this. He says, "Which sports make the best films?" And I think, boxing is always a good one. I think a lot of anything with the race, really, so a lot of running. That's a good kind of tension
yeah,
builder and everything like that.
yeah. This
Um,
is where I put my hands up and go, I have not seen Chariots of Fire.
Oh, Kieran. I mean, to be fair, I've only ever seen it the once. It's not one I go back to time and time again, but I can see why people love it. It's very,
You do it for that
it's a
one scene at the Olympics with
yeah,
Rowan
yeah.
Atkinson now, and that's it. We leave
I
now.
know, it's kind of ruined it for me. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it the other day. I was searching for a GIF of it, to post on promoting this episode, and the first thing that came up was the Mr. B one.
Yeah,
Um,
we can't do
but
it. Yeah,
but you'll probably agree, Kieran, that I suppose motorsport hasn't really been that well served in general by cinema.
yeah.
There's a few, but not many. And I suppose is that still with like, especially with modern motorsports, like obviously, the your main character's face will be covered up, so you kind of how do you kind of get
I mean,
connection?
there is that. I think the best motorsports film that's come out in the last couple of decades is Rush, which is a
Yeah,
phenomenally well done
yeah,
film.
yeah,
But there are other things that just and there are certain sports. I think there's something like boxing or wrestling. It's fairly easy to work out what's happening, who's in
yeah,
the lead, who's winning, who's not, and something like that. Um, and in the nice way, all the intricacies are fairly obvious. And so when you have something where it's even like motorsport, you think you just get in a car and go. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the
yeah,
scenes, the strategy of the pit wall, and all these kinds of little details revolving around, especially something like Formula One. That is very hard to put on stage, on screen, stage, whatever, and
yeah,
make it exciting right then and there. I mean, the film I'll be talking about later, Queen of Cutway, that's all about chess, and as we know for a fact, that is very hard to make. There's the thing that chess is not a spectator sport.
yeah,
And it's very hard to make it obvious for somebody that knows nothing about the game what is going on at any given point. And I've been leading on. And as I'll lead on to later, Liam also asks, what do films struggle to express about sport? For example, football never looking quite right, with goalkeepers diving out of the way of the ball, etc. And
yeah,
there are so many issues with chess tournaments, for example, knocking over the king. If you're an actual chess tournament, that doesn't happen. You just
no,
hold out your hand and go, yep, you stop the clock and go, yep, well done, I resign. And
yeah,
there's certain things like talking across the board that just doesn't happen. Anyway, I'll come into this later. So certain sports just are very hard to get
yeah,
across to the laity exactly what's happening. So it's like,
mm,
it would be the equivalent of having to like condense Yu-Gi-Oh like
yeah,
into 2 hours. You start on with
yeah,
the basics, but the thing is, like, I mean, even if you did it for like kind of just the first series of Yu-Gi-Oh before they went on to all the other bits,
yeah,
Duel Monsters, like it, it'd be condensing like 100 odd episodes at least with all the rules and character stuff into like 2 hours. And you just can't do it with so many intricacies and certain things. Football's a kind of an easy one because everyone knows you get the ball in the goal. it's a point. The most points
Yeah.
at the end wins. But there are obviously intricacies that don't quite work, and you have to make it dramatic for the screen.
Yeah, and I suppose normally, obviously, you're teaching actors to play football, or sprinkling actors amongst like retired professional players, and
Yeah,
it's quite hard to get away from just literally filming a match of a football match and just looking like it's on TV.
yeah,
It's about making it look more cinematic and dynamic and stuff. And at that point, you just it always down to the editor, I suppose, isn't it? Really, because
yeah,
because in a film, the camera will be doing a lot something that wouldn't be doing on on TV. Like
yeah.
we amongst players and stuff.
And I think I pointed this out before, but I'll probably bring it up again. I direct viewers and listeners to my article that I did a couple of years ago for the Film Magazine on the Harry Potter chess scene, where International Master Jeremy Silverman, who got several books of, essentially designed a whole story within kind of the puzzle, so
Yeah,
that you can't sacrifice several people, and even like the Black Queen takes several pieces, so she
yeah,
becomes a threat, and so actually. When Harry goes to deliver checkmate, that's not the final move because the queen can
yeah,
still block. And part of it was that you kill the queen as a kind of vengeance. So it's almost like a story within a story. And Ron sacrificing himself. Technically,
yeah,
Harry can do the same thing and still deliver mate.
yeah,
But it's
yeah,
Ron and Jeremy Silverman was very upset when essentially they butchered it, so you don't see half of it. The puzzle doesn't work as it was set out, and they didn't even credit him in the credits, so he's very put out about that. Anyway, go read all the stuff about that. So yeah, there's some stuff that's just very hard to get across and keep the character with the story as well, because at the end of the day, a lot of the kind of sports moments are plot points,
yeah,
and that you have to have it go a certain way at certain challenges, and you have to present that a certain way, and it's very hard to make that realistic to what a sport would be.
mm.
Is what I would suggest about that.
Yeah. Definitely, there's definitely elements of that. I'm trying to think of a good example. Really, I mean, thing like sports, you kind of we haven't seen on screen and stuff like that. It's like, it's the ones that kind of blur the boundaries a bit. It's like, is it a sport? Is it not? I mean, don't think Happy Gilmore aside, we already had golf movies, have we?
Yeah, and that the one scene from Caddyshack,
Yeah, Happy Gilmore had Caddyshack. Yeah, it's like, would you do a good golf movie? I can't know, like a
I
Tiger
think the
Woods
Donald Trump
biopic.
Sebastian Stan thing is going to be the best we're going to
Yeah,
get. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, no, there are weird things. I think, especially, I mean, we do have stuff around like poker and things like that. But even that, trying to explain intricacies of Texas Hold'em and all the ranks and
yeah,
the bluffing mechanics, you've got to make it ridiculously
yeah,
obvious who's winning. So
yeah,
everyone always gets a royal flush at the end.
yeah.
We've seen it
Yeah, I
enough
mean,
times.
in Casino Royale, that's why it's unlike in the book. They don't play Texas Hold'em in the Fleming book, do they? But they thought this would be the most easy kind of version of poker for an audience to grasp quickly, and
Yeah,
get straight into that scene, and then it's all comes down to the character stuff. I think it's always a good sign of a good sports movie for me. A bit like same with documentaries. Really, if you've got no interest in the sport whatsoever, it still draws you in, and you still care about the characters. That's always a good sign for me.
we have a comment that I've no idea who actually this is because the name will be different. But tennis is a very popular sport for screen, similar to boxing. It has the potential for duel scenes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there a
yeah.
bit of tennis in one of the Bond movies somewhere? Am I hallucinating? Or is that
Uh,
sword fighting in one of the Brosnan
yeah, I'm
films?
pretty sure there's isn't it Goldfinger? Isn't there something with?
I think so.
Oh,
And something like
they play golf in that as well, don't they? I think there's
yeah.
tennis and golf
And
in that.
Strangers on a
Uh,
Train as well. One of the
Yes,
tennis
yeah,
players.
real good tennis match in that, yeah, which is again tied into like builds up the tension because there's something else going on at the same
Yeah,
time. It's cutting between like the crime going on and that, and kind of
yeah,
he's trying to finish the match quickly to get away to kind of
yeah.
save his skin essentially. And but yeah, the match keeps dragging on, so it's quite clever kind of when it's used like that.
And obviously, this ignores the fact that Hitchcock, one of his early silent films, is a film called The Ring, which is
Yeah,
about a boxer, a pair of boxers, and the end there's a boxing match somehow at the
yeah.
Royal Albert Hall. I can't imagine that happening now. You take
No,
the Royal Albert Hall and do boxing, and then you get things like Herbie for the racing scenes. So
mm,
those kind of work. So racing as well, and Herbie works because it's Herbie, and we know he's going to win at the end. Even when the car split in two and running across the
yes.
line. I'm thinking of Love Bug, and then the remake, Heavy Fully Loaded with Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, I have never seen a Herbie film. I don't know if that's a black mark against my name
But
or
like
if
the trouble is, my family are very much VW people. So like they used to rebuild Beetles. They used to set up like Beetle conventions and stuff like that. My sister's got a
yeah,
1972 restored kind of thing. Um, so we very much know Herbie and Beatles and stuff like that. So
yeah.
yeah. We've got James Golf Films, Legend of Bagger Cancer. Is it Bagger Cancer? Caddyshack, Team Cup, greatest game ever played.
Okay,
So there are some out there. We
yeah,
mentioned Caddyshack, so there's the one.
yeah, yeah,
If anyone's
yeah,
got any other ideas or suggestions for random films
yeah,
or sports that need films, then please shove them
yeah,
down. I'm waiting for something
yeah.
like soapbox racing, the film. Like is it the Red Bull?
Yeah, I mean that's normally reserved for like one scene in like a family drama, isn't it? Where like the dad bonds with the kid and stuff. It's not that would span a full film. I mean, it's a very good episode of The Simpsons that when about Homer do their soapbox race.
Yeah.
Liam asked what fictional sport from a film should be real. And I was thinking for ages, right? So don't think Quidditch because that's already sort of real. I mean, don't some American universities do
What
a
was that?
version
Sorry,
of
I think you
Quidditch?
broke up. Oh, Quidditch.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, Quidditch. Yeah, what could?
I mean, to be honest, now I think if you try to do that, you get cancelled anyway because it's J.K. Rowling. Uh, it's like I have a very weird thing with that in that kind of I essentially learned to read and got into reading through the Harry Potter books and the films, so
Yeah,
they're very much a part of kind of my culture. And every time I see one of the films, I am there because it was very much part of my childhood.
yeah,
And at the
yeah.
same
Same
time,
for
I'm
me.
like, J.K. Rowling's an asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it says power slapping feels like it will get a film at some point. Power slapping? What's power slapping? Where am I missing that from?
I don't
You'll
know.
you'll have to explain power slapping for us in the comments. Like I am confused, which isn't hard. Um,
No.
like there's going to be some, and obviously video games. Video games is an interesting one. Do we count that as sports now?
Like, well, as esports, isn't there? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people train, in teams, to be the best, working their reaction, their tactics, and
And
everything. So
admittedly, one of the drivers in Formula 3 this year started out by being like world champion
yeah,
Formula 1
yeah,
esports,
mm,
and is not
yeah,
constantly last. And they're not
yeah,
first, but they're
yeah,
not constantly
yeah.
last. So
So James suggested a few kind of fictional sports earlier on. So basketball. Have you ever seen that Trey Parker and Matt Stone's
no,
film? Yeah. So it's it's a combination of basketball and baseball, but they're basically just whacking like massive balls around with bats. Basically, yeah, it's very silly, but it's quite funny. Death race. Okay. I mean, but basically,
okay,
talking about like doing motorsports, but with weapons, aren't you? Really?
yeah, that's just called Mario
Uh,
Kart at a certain point,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, real life Mario Kart. Yeah, yeah. Tron light cycle races. Yeah, I suppose you could.
I mean, let's be
When
honest.
someone
I don't know
when
how
someone
it would
invent
work, but
when
we'd all
someone
want to see it.
no, yeah. I mean, you've always got those like VR kind of sense, haven't you? With, like various kind of
Yeah.
scenarios and things. I suppose you can get quite close to that.
Question though: does the Tron light cycle count as a video game that you want to see in real life, or is it a
Yeah,
sport?
yeah, because it's not literally not in our world, is it? It's you're on
It's,
another
it's
place.
in a video game, yeah.
Yeah, it's virtual reality, isn't it? So yeah. Pod racing, he also suggested. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, realistically, golf came from fiction because we all know that it was an ancestor of Peregrine Took from Lord of the Rings that invented the game of golf. Or was it Merry? Somebody in the comments.
No, it was ancestor of Pippin.
Somebody across the face. There are plenty of compilations of knockouts from it. Isn't that just the Monty Python fish slapping dance?
I don't.
I tell you what, I see that as a contest.
Yeah,
the Monty Python fish slapping.
Yeah,
I'd take that.
But it was Pippin's ancestor. It was it like Bilbo's cousin or something? I know that the Bagginses and the Tooks are related. I seem to remember. So
who invented golf in Lord of the Rings? Yeah, real life research. It's Bandobras. Bandobras Took. So it's actually Pippin's ancestor.
Yeah. God.
Yeah. Let's go for if we've got any more questions and bits. We're kind of waiting. I don't really want to proceed. Jacob will be back. He's around and doing stuff, and just times clashed. And it just makes sense to get onto the films when he is back. This is how well prepared we are. Obviously, stuff happens. Proof that we're live. And again, which sport has the most untapped potential for the film? So we've done that. We're just clearing through our questions and make sure that we don't get anyone missing out now. Which sport makes the best films? Did we do that? Was James's question. I don't think we actually answered which sport is the best. Although I would actually say now, do we say this is that it makes the best film, or is the best in the easiest to put in a film?
Yeah,
because I think there's a slight difference in that.
I mean, I think we have already kind of established basically anything like one-on-one kind of usually makes for a pretty good kind of dynamic, doesn't it, in a film? And team sports possibly a bit more difficult to kind of compellingly realize, like a fictional context.
I was going to say, I haven't seen it all the way through, but I never kind of see something like Invictus high up on these lists. It's kind of must be one that's there, but
I mean, I was going to mention like rugby is about the only sport I watch semi regularly, and I can't think of a good rugby film really. I mean,
and yet something like baseball gets a lot of films.
Yeah, Invictus is basically you're watching it to see Morgan Freeman play Nelson Mandela, and then there's some rugby happening as well.
There's some rugby involved. Yeah, that's our reason to get him in. It's an interesting one. Come on, Jacob, where are you?
I mean, me and a few friends, we go down to like this gaming convention every year, and one of our little rituals of that is someone brings on a really crappy sports movie to watch in the hotel room. We scuppered last time because the hotel had upgraded and the TV was like mounted like flush on the wall, so we couldn't plug in our games console as DVD player, sadly. But probably the worst one we've seen, recently, a few years back, was United Passions, which is the FIFA movie with Tim Roth as Sepp Blatter. And this was a film that infamously cost $32 million to make and made back $168,000. It was
that's beating John Carter.
It just didn't. So it was 90% funded by FIFA, and it's basically just propaganda about like the birth of the, of the league and everything like that. It's just FIFA how it is today and how the competition works. It was just, and it basically it works all the way up to basically throughout Blatter's life and all the way up to kind of one of the World Cups, I think. But it's just really just filled with cliche and terrible dialogue and terrible acting, and it's
including from Tim Roth.
Yeah. Well, promise he's going to play. What is Sepp Blatter? Is he Swiss? Yeah, he's Swiss. So he's doing sort of like a generic European accent, and then you have.
Is it worse than Russell Crowe doing an Italian accent in Pope's Exorcist?
It's probably up there. Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry, that was not good.
Yeah. I mean that was basically a film kind of trying to make almost the politics of football interesting rather than football as a sport,
Yeah.
basically. It's just all the stuff you didn't want to know, but they're going to tell you anyway.
Yeah,
Well,
I think if you're doing anything like that, you have to root it in specifically the characters and like a character
yeah,
clash and just bring them into the conflict. I will
yeah,
draw upon again Rush as a really
yeah,
good example of just the two characters and them fighting against each other as they navigate kind of the ins and outs of
yeah,
F1 in the 60s and
yeah,
70s.
yeah. Yeah. And there are also like some great sports documentaries. I mean, sometimes to kind of tell these stories on these kind of lesser known stories or stories behind the scenes, like a documentary is possibly more
Yeah.
suitable than like a narrative film. Like
Well,
Senna.
yeah,
Senna is obviously one of the best sports documentaries of all time. For good
I've got
reason.
it
It's
on DVD
just
somewhere, and actually on
yeah,
Time Out's list of the best sports movies of all time, Senna comes in number 8. Um,
yeah.
it is a
I
very good
did bring
film.
up the Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean their top 10. It was number 10 Olympia, so Lenny Riefenstahl's
that's a
Olympics
dodgy one. Like,
documentary. So
here's the thing: it's not. It is a very
yeah,
like accomplished piece of filmmaking, but it's very dodgy to.
uh, we, we we mentioned her in our animation briefly in one of our other episodes, but for people who don't know, Lenny Riefenstahl, she was the filmmaker behind the Third Reich, basically. So um, she's she did a lot of their propaganda.
Yeah, so
I
she
mean,
filmed
yeah,
the
technically,
36.
but
Yeah,
yeah. Had When We Were Kings, which was Jacob's choice a few weeks back when we talked about documentaries. So that's about the
yep,
Rumble in the Jungle. And then we've got then we've got Senna. Then we've got Slapshot, which I've never seen. That's hockey, isn't it? That's Paul Newman
I
in a
think so.
hockey
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
Um,
The
I
wrestler.
went to I went to uni with a guy who was yeah, I went to uni with a guy who was a big hockey player, and yes, I think Slapshot was his favorite film. um,
Although
the
you know what,
wrestler
I'm not
again,
seeing on this
wrestling and
list.
boxing both do real well.
Yeah. I'm
Mm.
not seeing on this list what one of my friends his favorite film was of all time, which is Jamaican bobsleighing, Cool Runnings.
Cool
I'm not
Runnings,
seeing
yeah.
that on the
Oh
list.
god,
That's obviously very upsetting.
no,
If you ever listen to this,
they, yeah, they probably think it's too insubstantial. It's like all these are quite worthy films, aren't they? Except for Caddyshack. Caddyshack's at 5. um,
yeah, which is not great.
then you
Uh,
got Bi- Bill Bill Durham, Bull
Hold on,
Durham,
yeah,
which I've never seen. Again, another baseball film. Hoop Dreams, a very good basketball documentary. I think Ebert was a big fan of that.
yeah. I've heard of it,
Raging
haven't
Bull
seen it.
and yeah,
Number 2, and
yeah,
then Rocky at
Raging
number 1.
Bull
Yeah,
and Rocky number 1. Yeah, they're expected. I think as the top 2. Yeah, but some of my other favorites. I'm a big fan of like boxing movies. Think uh, of trying to just
you're
go
trying to
through
think of the
what
movie
I
you're thinking
watched
of.
recently. Well, yeah, I am. Aren't I? But obviously the wrestlers up there. Foxcatcher, that's a really good one. It's funny. A lot of the ones like in the ring, they verge into more like straight dramas as opposed to like sports films. You got the fights, but in amongst that, there's normally like a lot of other stuff going on. The
Yeah.
actual scenes in the ring don't tend to be like the biggest part of those films.
No, they're normally kind of where you essentially those are your plot points, and then everything else strings it together between the beats of this is where we go up a notch, this
Yeah,
is where we get knocked down, and then the rest of it's about kind of the consequences of those moments rather than the moments themselves, which I think that's
yeah,
where sports documentaries work. Sports movies work
yeah.
best. It's about the consequences of the individuals that have had that moment. We've got James calling you to leave Caddyshack alone.
Hey, I didn't say it was a bad film, James. I'm not sure if it belongs in the top 5 of greatest sports movies of all time. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm
Uh,
obviously very upset that the original 1955 Fast and the Furious film is not in here, the Roger Corman film. That essentially
yeah,
whoever it was that uh, kind of created the franchise later needed a name for it, saw
yeah,
a documentary of American International
yeah,
Pictures, liked the name, and asked Roger Corman if they could use it. And went, yes, you can use that for your
yeah,
films, but I want the rushes from your film so that I can go and. Which reminds me that obviously we need to do a Roger Corman episode at some point because he's still going. He's still alive. He's still going. He's 98, and as far as I can
yeah.
work out, he's
I'll,
still working on stuff.
I'll, yeah. Are we going to do that while he's still alive, or wait till he cocks?
We need to get there very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jacob is still
yeah.
not back.
But
So the
yeah, again,
question
this list, I don't think we have to start talking about our picks for these, aren't we? Really?
yeah, I think we
Be on
are,
our own.
unfortunately, and Jacob is
Off
going
the
to have
top
to
of our head.
catch up. So who do you want to go first? Do you want to take the first one, or shall I?
Well, you did the intro, so I'll take this one. Yes, so my pick for a sports movie I've seen quite recently actually, and I really enjoyed was The Iron Claw. Um, so I'm not a wrestling fan, never have been, never will be. Some of my friends growing up were, and I kind of absorbed a bit like from their general interests, but yeah, it's never really been my thing. But I thought an interesting one to start with on this. I mean, again, this is probably a debate will come up with yours as well, Kieran. Is is pro wrestling a sport? Well, technically speaking, I've looked this up. If you're going by legal terms, it can't be considered a sport.
Why is
But
that?
well, it's described as a form of athletic theatre.
What's
Technically,
that? There's so much
yeah,
fake that it
yeah,
can't actually be
yeah,
classified
yeah,
as genuine.
yeah. Now
Wow.
I think, I think anything kind of predetermined, essentially, it kind of it's almost the spirit of like a competitive sport. Essentially, I think that's their general argument. But
Are
that's
you
not
saying
to
that all
say,
wrestling is predetermined?
no, that's not to say wrestlers, kind of don't know what they're doing, aren't like incredible athletes. Of course they are. They've got to obviously, there's got to be physically able. They've got to be
Yeah.
able to throw and fall in the right ways to not seriously injure themselves.
Yeah.
They've obviously their routines are like incredibly well choreographed and everything like that, and they're like they're just such personalities, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah.
it's no surprise that so many wrestlers kind of make this successful transition to film acting because
Yeah.
essentially they're
Whether they're
already
good or
acting,
not as
in
actors, they make it
yeah,
across
in
very
their day job.
successfully.
Yeah. But they've already got that charisma, that those personas, and it's just doing that in like a different setting, essentially. I mean, apparently this it did obviously, um, actual kind of wrestling you see in the Olympics. Obviously, that is like a contact sport. Just like boxing is. And this obviously developed out of that. Developed apparently during like kind of the prohibition sort of years, where basically there were so many fixed matches that like fixed by the mob. That basically that they said, well, why don't we have a separate thing for this? We'll be open about that. The result is predetermined, but you'll get to know these guys and their characters, and you'll
Yeah.
be swept along and drawn to the story.
It's essentially
Um,
violent theatre.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it does remind me of that episode of South Park where they join the school wrestling team thinking they're doing like pro wrestling, and they kind of get all their costumes together and everything. And then just comes the gym. There's all these guys out in leotards just pinning each other. It's like, this isn't what we signed up for. Um, but yeah, so I don't watch wrestling, but I do like wrestling movies. Like the wrestler Foxcatcher. Another one I saw quite recently, Cassandro, about the first kind of openly gay Mexican wrestler. That's an interesting one. But yeah, they kind of sports movies in general, they're usually about like the struggle to win, like to be the best in kind of whatever you're doing. Um, in this film, so it's the true story of true and tragic story of the Von Erich clan. They're like a wrestling dynasty essentially from Texas. They've been so the dad basically trained up all his sons basically to follow him into the ring and like carry on their name as like the kind of wrestling family in the area, and it's basically following their kind of struggle to be the best and stay the best throughout the 70s and 80s. But the real life basically they experienced like a series of unimaginable kind of tragedies. I mean, there were 6 brothers, I think, and five of them ends up dying untimely.
That's not good.
The makers of the film, the makers of the film obviously thought this was be a bit much because they actually wrote out one of the brothers from their script. They said, no, they've had enough death. We can't have another brother dying. So basically, one of them died in childhood, and then three of them end up dying, not in the ring, but as in deaths connected. Two of them committed suicide, and one of them dies from an injury that was possibly exacerbated by kind of his matches. But yes, so basically, usually in a sports film, the protagonist kind of has to face setback after setback, but is able to pull everything together, but to come out on top in the end. This is a less conventional kind of story to tell in that regard, because basically we're following Kevin Von Erich, who's Zac Efron, and basically he doesn't even get to do that. He's the second oldest and the oldest surviving son of the family. He should be like the heir apparent of his dad's wrestling legacy, and he should be kind of given every opportunity and to become like world champion, everything like that. But he's passed over time and time again. Basically, his dad just psychologically and emotionally manipulates him time and time again. Basically, oh no, give your son, give your brothers a go. No, I think he'll be better at this. And basically, just time and time again, he said, oh, this is my opportunity. I'm ready to go. I can do this. And his dad said, oh no, it's not your time yet. And he keeps kind of basically keeping like the physical fitness up and doing these matches, but he never gets proper opportunity to properly prove himself because he's always passed over his younger brothers. And as they're dying one by one, he's still being ignored. So it's like like a double insult to himself basically. And like they're a weird family because like none of them seems to be able to grieve properly, and they just put it all back into carrying on with their passion and their wrestling legacy. And I mean, the dad's basically is a real nice piece of work, very emotionally abusive, and basically doesn't know how to talk to any of his sons, and players them off against each other, and just compete, and nice piece of work. So it's really good kind of against the odds movie. I think I'm sure if you're a wrestling fan, you'll know them. You'll know them as a name. I mean, they're still going now. I think the latest generation has followed the family into the ring. But it's a really interesting biopic for like the uninitiated, because it's a story that's like so kind of shocking, and kind of the scene I've seen of you saying, "Oh no, that can't be real. That can't really happen. No way. Like one family can go through so much." And you look up, and it's all true. If anything, they've kind of restrained themselves a bit by not telling the whole thing.
This is one of the times where they haven't made stuff up; they've left stuff out because it was too shocking to put in.
Exactly. And it's it's a really kind of heartbreaking drama. I mean, again, it's some of these where the way they did wrestling matches are really impressive. Obviously, the actors, so Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, they all really look the part. They look like wrestlers. They're doing all the moves, and they've got the charisma, and they kind of really get like the kind of the smack talk and the personas and everything down and all that. It's all really well done. But those scenes that they're a very small part of the film, really, they're just there to kind of heighten the rest of like this really dark family drama, essentially, and just kind of what's going on outside the ring. That's the most compelling aspect of it. I would really recommend it if you haven't seen it. It was out. It was out in the States, I think, late last year, and I think in the UK it was out in February, but it's available on streaming now. And if you get a chance. It's,
I
it's
just looked this up. I
well
think
worth your
there's even
time.
1 or 2 cinemas down in London that are still playing it because it only came out a couple of months ago in
It's
the UK.
yeah, I think it's been a bit of a sleeper hit. It's been one of those that have kind of has had legs.
Yeah,
I mean, I did see it mentioned on a post the other day. People saying, people saying it's like the days of like mid budget kind of mid budget films is over. It's like, well, where's the market for this? And well, clearly it's not, because a lot of these, they've got stars in them, but they're not like massive budgets. But
yeah,
people are still going to see them and going back to see them, and they're staying in cinemas for
yeah.
much longer than you might expect. So
I mean, admittedly, when I was going to the cinema the last few times, I saw kind of posters for it and thought, if I have nothing better to do, I might go and
yeah, yeah,
check it.
yeah,
It came out December 22nd, 2023 in the States.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
UK, we got it on February 9th. So, and I've just checked, there are 1 or 2 like
yeah,
Odeons in the middle of London that are
yeah,
still getting it for like 1
yeah,
showing a week kind of thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I mean, with like Zac Efron in mind, kind of, he's another one of these, a bit like Robert Pattinson. I think a lot of people still
yeah,
don't rate him. He's almost tired by his early kind of work. It's like Pattinson, oh, you're in Twilight, so you can never be a good actor. It's like, well, clearly he is, because of all the interesting choices made. And Zac
yeah,
Efron's quite similar, I think. I think pretty much everything he's done since High School Musical, especially in like the last 5 years or so, odd, dodgy comedy aside, all the dramas basically he's done have been kind of, they've really stretched him. I think he's a bit of a chameleon. Really, he never quite does the same kind of thing twice.
yeah,
I think he's more or less, I think, in every scene of this film, and just he's definitely very much like the point of view character. Just absolutely goes through it. Goes through, obviously being passed over and ignored and not getting his shot, but also just the unimaginable grief, time and time again, and eventually, kind of Kevin kind of has to like step away almost, and it comes to like believe this, like there's a curse on his family, even like, because the Von Erich name is like, it's a stage name,
yeah.
that his dad took on, but they were all kind of inherited, but he ends up changing his kids' names back to his birth name, basically, to avoid.
Try and outrun the curse.
Basically, yeah. There's even like a thing like in the kind of, not with like a biopic, there's like a thing at the end, kind of saying, what happened to everyone and kind of where are they now and everything.
Yeah.
And he's still going strong. He's still involved in wrestling. His kids followed him into the ring, but essentially he just he retired himself and then just bought a blood of land for his family, and now he just supports them and kind of has a quite chilled life retirement, which is good for him, good for Kevin.
I'm trying to see. I think it's currently at 44 million worldwide. Iron Claw. Just checked it up on Box Office Mojo, and it was made for not that much. I don't
15.
think.
Nearly 16 million. Yeah, so
Okay, so
good.
it's pretty much made back its budget, and anything else now is profit.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's flopped.
Mm.
Which is considering the state of films at the moment, that is actually very good.
Yeah.
Best part aside from Zac Efron, because I'm looking at the list and I actually don't know any of the other names, but I don't know actors anyway, so it's not surprising.
Yeah. Okay. Well. So Jeremy Allen White, he's the lead in The Bear. He's what that would be what most people know him from. So he plays like the most successful of the brothers, all told. He was the one who actually transitioned over to WWE, or was it WWF back then? So I mean, he's one who he doesn't die straight away. He gets to lose a leg before he dies.
Hey!
Again, tragedy on tragedy.
Everyone's so happy about that.
Yeah, no, he's really good at Jeremy Allen White again with just like with The Bear. He's very good at these kind of quietly kind of intense kind of roles. And Harris Dickinson's British. He's a good kind of British indie actor. Probably his biggest role so far was in the Kingsman prequel.
Yeah,
which didn't.
We did do an episode on that, didn't we?
We did, yeah. That were audio only, yeah. It wasn't great, was it?
Put it this way: you say that, and he's. I'm looking him up now. It played Conrad Oxford, Orlando's son. I have no idea who that is. I did a whole podcast episode on it, and I
He,
cannot remember.
he was Ray Fiennes' son who dies during the war. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler for me, because I can't remember it.
Yeah,
That's how amazing that film was.
yeah. No, probably the best performance apart from Zac Efron will be.
Oh, he was in Where the Crawdads Sing, which I reviewed.
Yeah,
I have no idea who he is.
Yeah. Probably the best thing about from Zac Efron would be Holt McCallany, who plays Fritz von Erich, the dad. Because I say he's just such a nasty piece of work, and just this man, just this big beast of a man who just can't communicate with his sons in any kind of healthy kind of way, And he's just so driven by ego. Basically, it's all he's doing. He'd say he's encouraging his sons and they just want to succeed. Really, just cares about his name, wants his name to live on, and then to carry off his legacy. Because he was when he was over, he thought he could have been bigger. Marlon Brando
could have been a contender.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he feels like he didn't get his fair shot, so he's living on, through the careers of his sons essentially. I mean, Sean Durkin, the director, he's not done a lot, but I think all of his films so far have been pretty solid.
Features, as far as I can see, and some shorts and TV work, which is normally how directors start out.
Yeah. So we did The Nest with Jude Law the other year, and then
heard of it.
10 years. Yeah, and about 10 years ago we did. Oh God, what's the one with Elizabeth Olsen?
That isn't anything to do with Scarlet Witch?
No. Martha Marcy May Marlene. There we go. It's about a cult. Yeah.
Are we sure this isn't Scarlet Witch?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I will actually say that very quickly on this list that Time Out did, Iron Claw is on there already.
Yes.
Number 49.
Yes. Yeah. I will say, want to check out the Film Magazine site. Our editor Joe did a countdown of the best wrestling movies, and he updates it after seeing the Iron Claw, and he puts it in second. Only the other thing above.
No spoilers. We want people to read the article. We don't want to tell them what their results are.
Yeah, all right. I won't say what we put at number one, but yeah, Iron Claw.
So if this amazing movie is second, what could be number one? You'll have to read it to find out. I'm so good at marketing our stuff.
You are, aren't you?
And we welcome back El Capitan.
What's up?
Yeah.
They say welcome back. Welcome. You were never here to begin with.
So we've done the questions, but we've done a lot of filling.
Yeah, I want to watch Iron Claw. I had it going in my earbud, so
yeah. Are you a wrestling fan, Jacob?
No. When you asked, is it a sport? The only reason I thought yes is physical exertion.
Yeah. Did you know who the Von Erichs were, considering you're a Texas boy?
No, never heard of them until just now.
No, they should be like on your flag or something.
Oh, yeah. I guess I need to watch it because a cursed wrestling family sounds great.
Yeah.
Now on to something.
This actually does sound like a Roger Corman.
On to something that isn't a sport, Kieran.
I was going to say, Jacob, are you going to yours first?
I guess I can. Never mind. I'll do an actual sport.
About isn't a sport. I can't remember what it is. You're doing Fired Up, aren't you?
Yes, it's a sport. It's cheerleading.
I'd like to point out I've already done the cheerleading movie of the past few months, and you decide to come in again with another teen cheerleading.
Yeah, well,
get on my patch.
I didn't remember that you did a teen cheerleading movie.
Have we all picked sports that aren't sports?
Yes. I was going to call it unconventional sports. I just went with some sports movies.
It's the worst title I could think of. No, it's an amazing title. Everyone should come because it's the greatest title ever, and everyone on YouTube should be watching this.
Alliteration. Yeah, I watched Fired Up, which is a cheerleading movie. It's about two football players who go to cheerleading camp to avoid football camp and to sleep with women. That's their big gambit.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer. I've not seen the film. I watched the trailer just for being honest. Is it Samuel Jackson that did that as well?
No, I don't. He's not in it.
Somebody did, and they're on some chat show.
did that in real life. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, some celebrity joined the cheerleading group because they were trying to pick up girls and it wasn't working. So they decided to go to the join the cheerleading society and go to the competition because they're all girls there. And they were like, why is nobody else doing this? I can't remember who did.
I wish they called it the cheerleading society. Whenever they talked about it here, are cheerleaders a thing in the UK?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
I mean, they're probably starting to bring them in now because everything's more Americanized these days. But
sure,
but no, they're not a big thing.
The joys of monoculture. But yeah, it's the kind of movie where you have chauvinist protagonists who are supposed to sort of get more in touch with their feminine side, if not completely improve their views specifically on women, but really on the world as a whole. But there's just so much like gratuitous, just shots of cheerleaders, and the movie takes place in high school, which is the thing that makes it really weird. So all of these, sexualized women in crop tops and short skirts are supposed to be 16.
Oh, yeah.
At best, 17.
Yeah.
Can I just point out, I've just found it. Yeah, it was a story told in Graham Norton show. That is what Sam Jackson did.
Yeah. He explains, apparently, I became a cheerleader, but it wasn't to meet a woman. I wanted to travel all the places the team went to meet women. I had a megaphone and just called out to the girls who then danced. So at an all-boys school, and I was the only volunteer to be a cheerleader that year.
Yeah, I mean, if it worked out for him, then it's a lot like this movie. There's one character, she mentions that you're the only, 2 of 4 straight guys here or something like that, because everyone else is gay. And that's what a lot of, random parts of this movie are negotiation with, queerness in American society. Obviously,
is that you trying to add something to the film to try and make it somewhat of substance?
No,
it's actually in there.
It's actually in there. I watched the regular version. There's an unrated version that I've seen before. I watched the regular version, not realizing that there were 2 versions. But there's a whole subplot cut out of the regular version about they have an ambiguously gay roommate, and it's like, is he hitting on you, or are you trying to be friends with the more hyper straight character? Who's, and by the way, everyone in this movie is it's that side character from that thing. There's 3 side characters from One Tree Hill. The main character, one of them is on Community. He plays Britta's annoying boyfriend.
So what you're saying, it's just a cast of people that you vaguely recognize but don't know where from.
Yeah, and then they have a couple of real actors in it too. They have Philip Baker Hall, and there's another guy. I can't remember his name, but he's one of those improv comedians. He's big. I can't think of his name though. And yeah, they go to cheerleading camp, and there's just the main sort of thrust of the story is that once you have 2 guys on your cheerleading team, suddenly you're good. They came in last every year prior to this. I don't understand how cheerleading camp competitions work. The question that was asked, has any movie taught you the rules of sports? This movie does not teach you the rules of sports. There is a move that is prohibited that obviously the protagonists are going to employ. Yeah, they're going to put the rest of the cheerleaders in a body bag. And yeah, they still don't win, which is fun. There's a lot of funny to it because it's a comedy. It's hit or miss, but when it hits, it's pretty good. There'll be characters who are trading insults back and forth, and those parts are entertaining at least. There's a lesbian cheerleader too, but she is kind of unaware of it, and then her and one of the other girls sort of come to grips with it at the end. So that there's another queerness thing in it that is, it's played for male gaze, but
This
there's something
whole movie
to it.
sounds like it's played for the male gaze, and I'm on IMDb. Do you know the tagline for this film, Jacob?
Oh, let's see. Scoring has never been so peppy. I don't know.
Well, there may be several ones, but the one I found on IMDb is just this: 2 guys, 300 girls. You do the math.
Oh, there you go. There's no math in this movie. I don't know
That's classy.
why they thought that would be a good tag. Mine was better.
To be honest with that, they know exactly what they're doing. They're going, we both know what this movie is. Like, we're not trying to pretend it's anything else.
It could have been their scoring, but not touchdowns.
So do all the cheerleaders presume these 2 guys are gay when they join?
No, they don't. They know who they are. They,
all right,
especially at their school. So what they have to do, they do have to trick them a little bit. They have to go to one of their little sisters and be like, teach us some cheer moves. And then they're out in the park and they do a move to get like a frisbee out of a tree.
Yeah, because that would be the kind of the route I would expect it to go. You know, like the classic kind of story structure. You know, I think the non-threatening, they presume they're gay, but really they're out to score, and it'd be a bit icky to look back on now.
Yeah, well, there's a point where they say, yeah, we know why you were here. We just thought maybe you'd also be an asset to us in the competition. You know, when everybody falls out before they come back together for the big competition. But it's definitely the classic underdog story. Y'all talked about that at the beginning. That is the core of this movie is, these guys are not cheerleaders. These cheerleaders are terrible. And they're going to come together and make 19th place, which I don't know how. They said they finished 10 places worse the previous year. There's only like 6 teams, and one of them is made up of like 15 people. So when there's big crowd shots, they're about 10%, I would say, of the crowd shot. So I don't know. Maybe I'm bad at figuring out how many people are there.
Are cheerleader squads allowed to have different numbers, like compared to people they're cheering against?
I would think so.
That would just be an advantage to whoever's comes from the biggest school or the wealthiest school.
Or it would be a disadvantage because there's a higher chance that somebody messes something up because there's more people. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, the evil villains are the Panthers, and of course they wear black, and they do, villain stuff.
The trailer, they have like a little kind of dance kind of move thing that they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they call them bitches at some point.
Yeah. So, speaking of, tangentially speaking of which, that's where the iron claw comes from, by the way. That's the Von Erich's finishing move. They make a claw with their hands and basically grasp your head and push you down to the floor, basically.
Okay. Interesting. It's not as sassy, I'm sure, as it is in this movie.
No.
I do think so. There's another subplot, and that subplot is that the main cheerleader girl from their school has a boyfriend, and the better of the 2 chauvinist guys is falling in love with her, and so obviously, so douchebag boyfriend. He goes to college. He calls himself Dr. Rick, even though he's like pre-med. This actor is really good. He goes for it. Like, he is the full camp douchey boyfriend.
Should not be in a movie that's like this. He should be doing
perfect
better
for
things.
it. Yeah, he should be in Happy Gilmore. He's really good at, he'll sing Chumbawamba and be like, yeah, bro, this is my jam. Ugh, because I get knocked down, and I'm going to beat him up. Yep. He's always listening to some douchey song and, chanting about how great the song is. Yeah, love it. He's just so good. The main 2 actors, they're fine. Like, the guy that plays Britta's boyfriend on Community is probably the better of the 2. It seems like they just told him to improv the whole time. He's kind of like discount TJ Miller is how I would describe him. He's fine, is what it is. as far as like the sportsing, the football's pretty good that they show. Philip Baker Hall is their football coach, so he gets to be vulgar. And the cheerleading is good, but it's because they use lots of stunt doubles. And so if you pause it during the far away shots where they're doing complex cheer moves, you could see all of the very different looking people. They did at least get a blonde to play the main girl, but then there's like just an Asian girl. There aren't any Asian women on the team. I don't think they had a black stunt double playing the black girl.
You mean you got to 2009 and they didn't decide to add a token Asian character to the team? They didn't, like,
no.
That's kind of what they did around then, wasn't it? You just like add one of every ethnicity and go, look, we're diverse.
If they had incorporated this into like, not another date movie type movie, I think a ring girl would be in it. But this is definitely much more in that sex romp road trip. I would say it's more of a camp movie than a sports movie if I'm really thinking about it, because it's about connecting with all these other youths your own age in the beautiful days of summer. That there just happens to be a sport that it's centered around.
That's the plot driver.
Yeah.
And then, well, that is what we said. It's sports movies are kind of about. You know, you have these kind of sports moments. They're the big moments, and the regular points. The rest of it.
So they're underdogs, and obviously, trying to be better than the other team and everything. Is there at least one elaborate montage of them training?
Absolutely. It's them. It's the guys. They pump up the girls, and then they do a big cheerleader practice. And that's really it. It's one practice session.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is that I'm going to have to watch this. You're going to have to watch Bring It On that I did several months ago, and we're going to have to compare the two teen cheerleader movies from the 2000s.
Well, Kieran, it's funny that you mentioned that, because there's another scene where they're watching a movie on this big screen. It's Bring It On, and they're all quoting it as it happens. They're talking along with the movie, including one of like the main gay male cheerleader. Yeah. He's putting a lot of sass into it. He's really fun too. He's good. All the characters are one note, but like some people really lean into it and do a good job.
They've got it's one note, but it's on it. Let's run with it and see how far we can go.
Yeah, and the ambiguously gay guy in the uncut version, the only thing they show is, for some reason, the main douchey guy. He has some beads that he gave him. He's putting them in his mouth, and he said, "That's not a necklace." And then he realizes what they are. And then he goes through in his mind and remembers all of the times that he was ambiguously gay that weren't shown in the uncut version. Those aren't the scenes. Those are scenes he thinks back to, where he's like naked with them and grabbing his butt and things like that, and going, "Oh, he is gay. Whoa." But they're all accepting of it. It's not like they go, "Ha, gay," except he does have to talk about how straight he is. He does have to be like, I'm so straight that this is actually fine. So that's weird, but they're not homophobic.
These teen movies are
them.
weird.
Yeah, teen movies are weird. It's especially weird, like, you guys understand noticing the difference in your hair to varying levels. Once you start losing a little bit, you can notice when people are 35 versus 20 playing teenagers. Everyone in this movie's 35 years old. They're not close.
I mean, who is it? Who's it from Derry Girls? That is like 30. Which one of them is it? I can't remember. But...
It's the
Dairy Girls.
It's the one with curly hair. Yeah,
it's the shorter girl, isn't it? I can't remember.
Yeah, one of them is a lot older than the others. So, yeah.
That's Nicola Coughlan. Who plays Claire. I can't remember the name.
Yeah. So there's this Northern Irish school sitcom basically. They're all like in their mid-20s playing 16-year-olds, except for one of them who was about in their early 30s.
When it first aired in 2018, and she was 31 at the time, and she was meant to be in high school, like 14, 15.
Yeah.
Nice.
She's now like proper celebrity. It's quite funny.
Yeah, because she's in Bridgerton.
Yeah. Apparently, I think, was it Scorsese? Apparently, said that he loved Dairy Girls, and she was like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
Okay, I probably won't check out Dairy Girls, but I was picturing it like a Disney Channel movie. That's what I saw. Yeah, and that's how I would describe this. It's a raunchy Disney Channel movie. It's not great. It's something you watch when you're like 14 and go, "Oh, ho, this is hilarious," and then you're older and you go, "Oh,
and then you're
this
like
is gross.
16 and go, "What the hell am I doing?"
I would hope that a 16-year-old. I don't think a 16-year-old would, but
this is made for like 12, 13, 14-year-olds.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't know how sex and drinking works. There is actually a noticeable lack of teen drinking in it, which was surprising.
Well, we can't have everything.
Yes. Okay, so cheerleading is a sport, Kieran.
Well, it's
defend how yours is a sport.
It was quite funny you were saying actually that saying that yours is pretty much a Disney movie, because this one actually was produced by Disney and ESPN.
Sorry, I meant Disney Channel original movie.
Yeah, but still,
it's not even to the quality of live action Disney.
That's worrying. That really is bad. Yeah, so my film is Queen of Katwe. And
sorry,
if you go on
that?
Queen of Katwe.
Oh, okay.
And Katwe is a slum of Kampala, which is the capital of Uganda.
Sure.
It came out in 2016, and if you go on Wiki, it classes it as a biographical sports drama film.
So that's your basis.
Yeah, so Wiki. And here's the thing: it's a chess film, and anyone that kind of plays chess to even like club level will go, it's a sport. People on the outside won't, but then you realize that most of the top GMs are spending like at least an hour or two in the gym every day, because their thing is like 7-8 hours, like mental exhaustion at the board. It's a physical stamina thing as well, that the two go in, physical stamina and the mental stamina. So it's quite funny. You see all these GMs having like weightlifting like offs against each other, who can bench the most. It's quite funny.
Kieran, have you ever watched Chess Fever?
I have not.
Yeah, I would say it seems more athletic than your average chess movie just from the cutting.
And admittedly, now they are starting up with chess boxing, like tournaments. Yes, with the GMs and IMs do chess boxing, which I have to check out, like I'm on Hamilton. But yeah, Queen of Katwe is interesting, and I wanted to watch it essentially because I wanted to do something that wasn't like completely white. So this is very much not. And directed by Mira Nair, who is a Indian American filmmaker who has done quite a few other films. I think most of them are kind of Bollywood films, kind of in her earlier years, and then Queen of Katwe came out 2016, and she's done a couple of episodes of some TV series since then, but that was the last film, Queen of Katwe, and it is a biopic. Yeah, I'm big biopics. Like, this is something that doesn't happen, about a true character, Fiona Mutesi, who is from the slum of Kampala, who eventually grows up. Yeah, I start talking about chess and Jacob disappears again, as usual.
Yeah.
This is how it works. It's just like, I've done my bit, I'm going to bugger off again. So she kind of went to the slums, joined a kind of local kind of essentially outreach program, essentially teaching kids through sports, kind of life lessons, things like that. And she eventually goes to play at the Olympiad. She becomes I think she becomes national women's champion, or at least national junior women's champion, and eventually goes on to this bit is not in the film, it's just kind of afterwards, but she does become, along with somebody else, I can't remember the name of the other girl becomes the first one of the first titled female players in Ugandan chess history. So she is kind of a so it's essentially the chess body, for those who don't know, FIDE. You achieve a certain level, will give you a title. It's essentially like passing an exam almost.
Yeah.
So essentially, she was like, in some weird way, like one of the first women in Uganda to almost get like an undergraduate degree in chess, if that makes any kind of sense, if we equivalent it like that. And she got essentially people picked up on the story, and then it got made into a book, and then the book got made into a film. So it's also starring David Oyelowo and Lupita Nyong'o, who was like, I saw Lupita Nyong'o and I'm like, yes, Queen. And the actress who plays Fiona, that I'm going to butcher the name of, Madina Nalwanga, apparently was spotted kind of in a slum by a casting director, and kind of picked up and come to do this. This is her first film as far as I can work out. And she was from such an impoverished area that apparently David Oyelowo, I'm going to butcher the name as well. I apologize. I'm British. I'm not good with any names that aren't British. We can claim this. But David Oyelowo took
Brits should stay away from Uganda. Also,
yeah. So it took this young actress who's going to be the star of this film to see Jurassic World with the other kids on the set, and she turned around and went, "Is that what we're doing?" And she'd never seen a film before. Like Jurassic World was her first film. She was born in 2002, so she was 13, because Jurassic World was 2015, and never seen a film before. And apparently, when she went to see the finished product here, that was the second time she'd been in a movie theater in her life. So it's just even weird that like there are areas that the films don't get to. Just to learn this is an interesting place. Just an interesting thing. But the apparently most of the plot of this is about 90% accurate according to the real life Fiona. Apparently, aside from bits of dancing, because she doesn't dance. Apparently, she's going like, don't dance. But it's yes, there are the chess scenes and stuff like that, and there's moments where she learns to play. You enter tournaments, she beats the rich snobs, and then you go up to this place, and then she has some knockbacks, and it does the various things as you do in any of these kinds of sports films. It's kind of what happens. You know, we go through our various stages, our various competitions, and we rise and fall like that. But most of it is not about that. It's kind of actually almost in a way, I think the focus, yes, obviously she is the focus, but one of the main things is between her mother, played by Lupita Nyong'o, and her coach, played by David Oyelowo. And because her mother, obviously it's a slum area. She says in the film, you know, when I was raised, pretty much the whole time I went hungry. You know, you sell maize. This is what we do to feed our family. This is how we do it. The rent's late and everything like that. And it literally is living in essentially a kind of shack put together with corrugated iron and things like that. And when she finds out that Fiona and her brother are at this kind of chess club thing, she doesn't understand what chess is, and so hauls them out and says to the coach, who's obviously name I've forgotten, Coach Robert, that's it, you know, you will not have them gambling, you know, and think chess is gambling. And I think there have been countries in the past, even quite recently, sort of 10, 20, 30 years ago, that have banned chess because they see it as gambling. So like even that is kind of in there, and it's kind of a battle between those two of David's character Robert wanting to bring her up to exploit her potential, because not exploit her potential but achieve her potential, because she's like, she's kind of a prodigy, and in any other situation she would be. Why do we not let her achieve this? And the mother going, but she has to stay with the family. She owes something to the family, and at one point she takes she goes as part of the Ugandan team to the Olympiad. It's one of the first times the women have had a showing at the Olympiads, which is essentially their Olympics, because the Olympics don't recognize such as for like decades. Like, we'll do our own version
because it's not a sport.
Yeah, it keeps going on arguments, and I think one of the Olympics thing is like if we do that, then we're going to have to like draft some Monopoly in, and
Yeah,
that's
Settlers of Catan.
Qatar Olympics would be impressive. And also, I'm doing this at the time that the candidates is going on to decide who's playing for the World Championship matches. Literally, the games are being played currently in Canada. But she goes to the Olympiad, and when she comes back, her mother goes to the coach and goes, she's come back from this, and she essentially thinks she's too good for this. She's been in all these places, she's had all this success. She's seen kind of people have laptops to prepare. I want a laptop. I'm not going to get up in the morning because I've got all these things. And the mother's like, but she's not part of that world. And she goes, she's seen paradise, and now she just thinks that's where, her life should be. But she's not there anymore. She's here. She's back here. And so a lot of it is the constant back and forth between these two characters for, whether should we nurture it or should it go on along with her trials and tribulations. And that really is the key. It's those three characters and how they interact with each other that really work for this. In terms of presentation of chess scenes, there are bits that are dramatic up. Like, as I was saying before, there's scenes where somebody loses and they knock the pieces over. Nobody does that. You just stop the clock and go, good game, and then you leave. You scan the sources and go, up and leave. That's the situation. Even like in Queen's Gambit, they always take the king and they tilt it down. That was an old thing. It's not happening now.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, had you seen Queen's Gambit and kind of how does it compare?
I have seen every episode except the last one. That's because like my laptop died and I was going to watch it a couple of years ago. And I've just not got around to finishing it off.
But how does that presentation of the matches and kind of making them exciting kind of compared? Do they do different things stylistically? Or?
This came out a couple of years before Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit, Garry Kasparov, 13th world champion, was kind of creative consultant on Queen's Gambit. So even though the book had been written decades before, it was made into a thing after this. Again, it's similar in its presentation, but there's always a thing where, especially in this, where the moves come quite regularly. A couple of seconds and another one gets played, and there's just certain things that they're having to do because you've got to present it visually for people that don't know what's going on. You have to keep the momentum going. But at a certain time, I'm sat there going, nobody would do this. Like, there's a mate in one and everyone gasps, oh my God, she won. It's like, well, everyone would have seen this a mile off, especially at professional tournaments. This is not a thing which would happen. It would be seen. And so there's stuff like that. And when one of the later tournaments and the actual person, Fiona Mudesi, it says her peak rating was 1686, and this was on October 2012, so this is just after. Somebody of that strength, bearing in mind I've been to tournaments, I've played against people at this strength, mostly lost. Occasionally I've held my own, so I can roughly play at this level on a good day. There's certain openings, like she gets confused into a Queen's Gambit decline, which is, guess where the Queen's Gambit gets its name from? It's a very common opening, like 3 moves in, and she goes into like a think of, ooh, I've never seen this before. And I'm going, if you're at that strength, even if you're from the slums, you earlier on in the film it showed you reading, being taught to read some books, to go through a couple of Kasparov books. It's like you will have come across this opening. It's in the modern day, even and stuff like that, it's virtually unheard of because it's one of the most common openings ever. And I think it's actually the final game against to become like champion of the big tournament that this opening comes up, and it's like, if you're a D4 player, you will have faced this. The idea that you haven't is pretty much absurd. But they have to do it to throw in some jeopardy, like a couple of moves in, and it's like, no, that's not happening. There are some funny bits where they go into a proper tournament for the first time. The last tournament I played, it was a one-day rapid event coming on a year ago. but it's quite nice for somebody that's been in there and plays at that kind of like one day kind of level for them to walk in, because I felt the nerves and I felt the hype like physically, and like it came back. Like, and it's like, oh, I want to get in there kind of thing. And it felt like I was about to play when like everything just like, oh God, and all the stomach knots, because now you're like, oh God, now I have to pretend like I'm a decent player. And my favorite scene in the entire thing is in this kind of scene. There's several characters from the slums. They're called the Pioneers. Robert nicknames from the Pioneers. They're going to do there, and they're going to push forward for, you know, prove that the people of the slums can play chess. And one of the characters who's in it quite a bit, whose name I've now forgotten from the cast, obviously. This is how good I am. I think it's Gloria. She's playing on one of the boards, and she promotes to a queen, and then the queen gets instantly taken, and she bursts out screaming and crying, like, "Oh, he took my queen! Took my queen!" Has to get carted off, and I've never like felt something more in my bones. Took my queen. It's like, oh, I feel you. I feel you. So there's some stuff like random, like anyone that's played kind of these events will recognize and go, we've all had that feeling. There's other stuff, for example, the final scene where Fiona's playing against this person to become kind of, I think it's junior champion or something like that. There's people watching around the side, and her mother's there for the first time to support her becoming the champion, and they're talking at a volume which would not be appropriate. At least it kind of, cultural differences might be, but if it was a British tournament, it would not be appropriate to talk at that volume. You'd have an arbiter come over and go, "Can you please be quiet," or leave the room, because there are like dozens of other games going on. But you have to have that in order to have the characters and the story go on, and that's one of the things that you have to weigh up.
Dramatic license kind of stretching the reality a bit to make it work on a story level. So
there's some stuff that lines up, and there's other stuff that just like, it's just slightly off, that we know why they're having to do it, but it would not happen. Like, you know, if there's at that volume, if I was an arbiter and I know people are arbiters, they would have come over and gone, "Excuse me, can you please keep the noise down?" You know, if there are other games going on. And even when one or two of them win in their team tournaments and they're leaving, they're kind of going, "Yes, we won, I won," that kind of thing. And even though they're leaving, you'd have got everybody in that room looking up, going like that instantly within seconds. It's just something that happens, you know. You obviously come up with a certain level of noise, but when you know it's one person making a noise, everyone's head goes up just by default, because it's just not fair, even though you have to have it. So there's dramatic licenses going on, and that's one of the weird things with chess, that you have to have these moments where, because it's a game with a certain set of rules that not everyone knows, and it's not obvious how all the pieces move and the complexities and something like that, you have to have these moments and you have to break these rules.
So is it basically people almost commenting on the game, kind of saying, "Oh, they're doing this move because of this," and that was so you kind of thing.
So right near the end, the final kind of climactic scene, her mother's there for the first time, and her coach is there, and one or two people, brothers there, and I think one or two friends, you know, and she makes a move, and the couple go, and her mother goes, "What does that mean? Is that good?" And because it means she's winning. But it kind of at a vocalized rather than a whisper level. You know, and when she wins it, she's won, and they start hugging each other, and it's one of those ones where kind of, you know, like in the film world, they've been sound locked off kind of thing. They're in a little bubble of their own. But realistically, what will happen is she kind of sits back and goes and smiles at them and does that. To be honest, even like that is dramatic license. You'd get up, you'd shake hands, you'd sign the sugar sheets, you'd put the pieces in the middle, and then you'd leave the room. And then once you'd left the room, you would celebrate, because it's just polite, because there are other games going on. So again, it's just one of these things that happens, and Jacob is making a face.
I'm just thinking about like the boring decorum that I usually see in a chess movie, and that if someone like stands up and yells, that image is pretty hilarious.
Oh God, no. Yeah, there's and it's just, and to be honest, you wouldn't go and a certain amount of celebration at the board anyway, because the nerves and the adrenaline is still going. So you might kind of sit back for a second, but then you kind of get up, and there's still kind of procedures that have to be done for the rules and regulations. I mean, it probably hit me slightly differently because again, it's about going to like club level chess tournaments for a lot of it, and that's the level I've at. That's the level I've played for a number of years on and off. So a lot of it I really felt like in my bones, you know. It's like I recognize things like that. But even without that, again, these are kind of the spot points, as you're saying. A lot of it is about, you know, does somebody who comes from the slums kind of go further, and is it right to have them going further? And the coach was like, she can achieve so much more, she can get out of here. And you know, the mother, played by Lupita Nyong'o, kind of has that look of, what do you mean, like she's better than us, you know, what are we then, kind of thing going on. And it's that. And then you have, obviously, we've got to beat the rich kid, so it's very much a looking down on the slums kind of thing. And it's that play of kind of almost the kind of internal politics of the decorum of various places in Uganda, and then going over to play like Canada and things like that. You know, that's kind of, I think, an interesting part of it. That, and the fact that aside from one or two characters that make appearance that aren't named, like nobody's white. Hey, like nobody's white. It's a female director. Like, if you want anything that's not like a white sports movie, this is a great one.
Yeah,
it's really good, and it's really accessible as well.
Yeah. Me and Jacob have both picked very white movies this week.
Jacob normally picks the white there. He picked some non-white movies recently, but yeah, it's really nice, quite fun. You've got the moments. There's almost a moment where like their home gets flooded and stuff's almost been like washed away. That reminded me very much of Parasite. Where their place gets flooded, and I saw it, I'm like, this came out like a couple of years before. What's going on? Bong Joon-ho, are you been stealing?
Influence, yeah.
So there's bits like that in there, and it's not like a stealing up kind of thing, but there's definitely coming from the slums, and you know, she always returns there. And there's one or two bits where, even though she's having this success, she kind of goes back to her mother and starts selling, you know, the corn and stuff to get along with her. And things like that. And you know, they obviously all come together, and it's a Disney movie, so yes, a lot of it is true to life, but there's kind of only one way it can go. And it's really nice, it's really light-hearted. I enjoyed it. I think somebody that's not a chess player as well would understand it enough to at least get the ebbs and flows and be intrigued by that. And it's very well acted. Lupita Nyong'o is great, and you know, David Oyelowo is great, and actually Medina Nwanga, considering this is her first role, she does well enough. Again, some of the acting, because a lot of it is kind of child actors. Again, perhaps child actors that don't have that much experience, haven't seen that many films even to mentally compare against. You know, I think we underestimate kind of being able to judge kind of acting performance based on what we already know, like a pattern recognition wise. So that if we were to do something, we'd kind of subconsciously base it on things we've seen, even if we're not actors. So if you've got somebody, again, like Medina Nwanga, it was like during the shooting of it that she saw her first film. She was acting in a film and had never seen a film before. So, you know, if that's the case for her, you've got to think that perhaps one or two of the other children hadn't as well. And yes, there are older characters, but so some of the younger actors, it's not 100%, but they're good enough to pass it off, if that makes sense. It's never like Oscar winning, but considering all things considered, it's really nice and really good and really, I don't want to say a heartwarming story, but it kind of is at the same time, and that's what you want from.
I've checked. It's still on Disney Plus at the moment, so I think I'll definitely check it out soon.
And what's really nice, you know, you were saying at the end that Iron Claw, was it? I think where the casket, you get there. This is what this person's doing now, kind of thing. This is where they want now. It's really nice. The film ends, and just before the credits, they bring out the actor or the actress, and then they bring out the real life person they're with, whilst they bring up that this is where they are now. So you have the side by side for a good 6 or 7 of them, of the main cast, and that's really nice kind of touch there. And some of them look very alike. It's quite weird. It's like, oh my god, they're exactly the same. Some of them are not. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I think it's in like the 90s Rotten Tomato wise. 7.4 on IMDb. 4.8 I'm looking down for various bits, so it's a very well regarded film, and it slipped under the radar, but I definitely recommend it.
Well, I don't want to make presumptions about Sam, but Kieran, it's nice that you've actually played your sport at somewhat of a level, so I got to hear things that are stupid about chess movies.
You know what though? From what I could see, thankfully all the boards were the right way around. I can't remember what I was watching recently. It was some blockbuster, and the board is the wrong way around. I think actually in Age of Ultron, the board is the wrong way around. Tony Stark has set up a chessboard the wrong way around. I'm like, what the hell is going on, Tony Stark?
I feel that's quite in keeping with this character, because he's a genius, but he doesn't. He'll probably not know some quite basic things. He'll probably just get by it with confidence, so maybe. But yeah, it's probably just a genuine mistake. But I'm going to make allowances for his character.
I can tell you, if you've played chess at any level, when a chessboard comes up in a film, the first thing we do is look to see if it's the right way, the right order. But yeah, it's a nice film, even for those who haven't played in chess tournaments before. And it's the kind of thing where if you liked Queen's Gambit, you'll probably like Queen of Couplet as well.
Nice. And Greg asks, is Karate Kid a sports film? I'll say yes.
It's on the list. It's on the timeout list.
It's a physical activity, and in the movie, there's the big competition at the end. So there's montages.
What more do you want? Like,
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Now, is waxing a car a sport? I don't know.
No, but waxing it off is.
Gross. So that is it. That is it for this episode.
I liked him when he was off doing something else.
Well, it didn't even matter.
Me and Sam are going to strike out and do our own podcast.
Spin off.
No, we appreciate your technical expertise.
Cut. Oh yeah. I mean, look, I went to go. Not board up, plastic up a glass door, and now all of my work has been for naught. But at least I know what size it is, so that's pretty sweet. Yeah, so 5 to 8 business days, I will have a new door.
Yeah, this is what he was doing instead of like doing the important things and talking about sports movies.
Yeah, exactly. But until 5 to 8 business days, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at the Film Magazine, where at the moment you can read my review of Alex Garland's Civil War. And probably tomorrow there'll be a list dropping where I've ranked all 4 of his feature films as well. So check that out when that's up.
Yeah, I can't remember what's come out since the last date that we're on. Hopefully you don't find me anywhere. If you do, I'm Judgmental in the various places. I'm going to say possibly since the last episode, which I can't remember the date. Let me just double check. Yeah, so I had my review of Psycho come out on the same day. Got one of retrospective of Psycho, retrospective of Spellbound, my review of The First Omen. Hint is exactly the same as Immaculate. And my thing of Max von Sydow, 3 career-defining performances. Probably get something else at some point, but yeah, that's what's come out recently.
Yeah, and you can find me at Jacob Film Guy. I learned just now in an email today is DEA Take Back Your Prescription Drug Day, so if you want someone to take them to the DEA, send them to me, and I will get them straight there.
I thought you were going to say I'm going to take them.
But yeah. So find me at Jacob Film Guy. That's where you can reach out. or email me at secondcutpod@gmail.com. We can get that worked out. And then you could read my stuff on the Film Magazine, but it's nothing new. It's the same old stuff that it was the last time I said
He's
that.
slacking, isn't he, really?
Yes. Well, I'm not even writing in Slack, so...
If you just go to the Film Magazine and just search Scorsese, then probably whatever comes up will be what Jacob's written.
Yeah, me or Joe. Actually, I think a lot of people have Scorsese stuff, but yeah. You can also go buy Film Magazine stuff in our Redbubble store down in the description. You can just give us money. Yeah, there's something you can get. You can give us money. We take internet cash, but not Bitcoin. Well, no, we'll take Bitcoin too. Whatever. We'll accept NFTs. And are those even a thing anymore? Do people still do those?
No, crash and burn, thank God.
Oh, okay. Wow, who knew that was a fad? So that's it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Adios.
Goodbye.